On this week's episode of Harrpoon Gaming, we're going to be checking out 9 tips and tricks that I wish I would have known when starting off playing Mutiny, the RPG pirate game, survival pirate game. Make sure you guys stick around to the end of the video because the last 2 are dynamite tips. The first tip is sneaking around. Now, it gives you a tip in the game to do this, but in case anybody out there has missed it, or you're just about to start playing the game and you just like some tips as a noob, sneaking around to hit your opponent is a brilliant strategy, okay? Yes, it sounds corny, but why not get the chance to deal critical hit right out of the gate? You know, in real life, the best way to get through your opponent's offense and defense is to surprise him. If you surprise your opponent, most of the time it's going to shake whatever offense and defense plan he's got out. It works the same way in this game. So as long as you sneak up behind the guy, you got a chance of dealing critical hit, so that automatically should be a given. Like, why not do that? Tip number 2, if you have to, run away. If you are dying on an island and you don't run away, you die on the island, you get transported back to your island. Now, I've died twice, and twice only in this game. One time was because I wasn't paying attention. The second time was because I went to Ape Island way before I was ready. Way before I was ready. These gorillas on Ape Island are no joke. So if you find yourself dying, it's smarter to just run outside of the barrier of the island, because 2, you won't get transported back to your island and waste energy points going back and forth, back and forth. You keep all of the resources that you've already gathered, and the island doesn't reset. So if you leave the island, so say we're playing on Bamboo Island, and you leave Bamboo Island and you go home and you come back, everything's reset. All the resources are reset, all the animals, all the enemies are reset. If you just walk out of the border and go right back in, nothing resets, including the enemy. So that Kruger that almost killed you, or that gorilla that almost killed you, as long as you did some kind of damage to it before you took off running, the damage will still be done. So you'll go back and the Kruger or the gorilla is at half instead of fully. Or you go back because you left the island and the Kruger or gorilla are no longer there. So, because there's times on Sharktooth Island, you'll go and it changes, but you'll have stronger opponents, like a cursed pirate captain, I think was the one that I had to run from, because every time I hit him, he just regained the points that I just took. So I had to take off running from him. The third tip, avoiding big shots. Now, when you come across a guy with a big hammer and he's swinging it, whoa, watch the ground, because you'll see the red lines. Now, as long as those red lines don't like complete their circuit and you move out of the way, you can dodge that shot. So you can dodge that shot, turn around, hit him again, wait for him to swing that big old hammer, dodge the shot again. He'll never hit you. Never hit you. And I tested this theory out when I started, because I was like, wait a minute, is this really how this is working? I played with a guy for about 5, and that sounds wrong when you said it out of context. I played with an NPC for about 5 minutes just to make sure he was not touching me. And he didn't do a single, it was,
Bran corn chips. Rustle up some.
Last week, us Fritos rustlers came upon a different breed. Ranch Fritos. They looked real wild, but they was actually sort of mild. Shoot, one even let Luke pet it. These wild and mild ranch Fritos have a creamy ranch flavor. No Fritos rustler can resist. But keep that under your hat, partner. Wild and mild ranch flavor Fritos corn chips. Rustle up, son.
Tip number 4. If you're hunting, and you're running low on supplies and you're just out there for the hunt, right? Take what you need to, but once you get rid of all the enemies on the island and you ain't got to worry about pulling out a pistol or a sword or something like that, hunt with no weapons. All right, use just your hands, because what's happening is you're not using any materials to gather pelts and food. So the meat and the pelts that you get from the animals, you don't have to replace anything with it because you're hunting bare hands. I mean, it's not really that hard to take a rabbit out with a punch in this game. Number 5, bow versus a gun. Now, the only reason why I put this one on here is because, for one, it is easier to get the resources to make a bow than it is to get the resources to make a gun. But a bow, you can shoot it and not alert an opponent around the other opponent that you're about to face. That, and it seems like the distance from when you're sneaking on an opponent, you get more distance with the bow than you do the gun. So the gun, you can only get so close to the guy before you actually have to fire it. The bow, you're still far back. So when you hit that button, it seems like sometimes you got to sneak up real close to the dude before you hit him with the gun. With the bow, you hit the button and you sneak up, and he only takes a couple steps, stands up, and draws back on him. Number 6, bandages versus the medicine vial. I suggest making the bandages. Don't mess with the vials. Like, the only reason why is because if you do the math, it takes more of those little plants that you find to make the vial than it does to make the bandage. Now, that being said, this is all math. It takes more of that plant to make it. The plant's a little harder to find, but then if you use 2 bandages, you get more HP than you do using one of those little vials. So it's smarter, especially in the beginning of the game, to make bandages than it is to make the little medicine vials. Number 7, using your experience points, the little points that you get for attack and defense and spirit and all that. It is great to tame an animal. I'm not gonna lie. Now that I'm finally, and all I got is iguanas for right now, and I still love the fact that I can walk up, get an iguana, and the iguana is gonna help me attack an ocelot. You know what I mean? Or a young pirate, or whatever, or the pirates that kind of remind me like they're zombies or something. Do not worry about that in the beginning of the game. My suggestion, my strategy was to build my offense and my defense together to get them higher. Because this way, I mean, who needs an iguana when you're able to deal an incredible amount of damage with just 2 shots? You know what I'm saying? So in the beginning of the game, I didn't worry about my spirit. I only worried about my attack and my defense. All right, guys, it's time for the last 2 strategies, and these are the best ones I feel. I'm gonna wrap these 2 strategies up into one. Okay, so my other best strategy, one of my other best strategies, is to raid the island that your character is comfortable on. It took me forever to move to Sharptooth Island because I sat back and I raided. I mean, I just continued to pound Bamboo Island and what is it, Rock Island or something like that. Now I'm on Sharptooth Island. Once you're able to walk around Sharptooth Island and just not worry about the other players, whatever pirates are on the island, whatever the island decides to throw at you, stay on that island. Just keep raiding it out of that island, because you're going, what's happening is you're building up supplies. So you're building up supplies, you're getting ahead of the rat race, because if you notice in the beginning of the game, when you're on Bamboo Island and Rock Island, it becomes difficult. It's difficult to keep up with, and it's difficult to not die, and you're using all these resources. I no longer have to worry about certain resources. I actually have too many. I have to go in and delete them out of my storage. Because I sat there and I just pounded. And now that I'm on Sharptooth Island, I'm doing the same thing. You don't get a whole lot of copper, and you don't get a whole lot of palm trees, but you do get enough sturdy leather materials. But you still get palm, and you still get copper, and they're still giving you the stuff to you, and you're still finding all the other resources that you want. I do not suggest hunting with no weapons, though, doing Sharptooth Island, because you hit one pig, all the other pigs around that pig that notice you're fighting that pig will gang up on you. Very difficult with just hands. I'm throwing hands all day with pigs, bro. But the other suggestion is, while you're raiding these islands, use as little resources as possible. Take very little with you. As you can see, my character, I literally go over there with a bandana and a pair of pants. I don't go with any backup, anything. I go maybe backup weapons. I do take up backup weapons if I'm using smaller caliber weapons, like the first bow that you're able to make, and then the bamboo hammer. I do take extra weapons, and I do take like some kind of health regenerative thing with me, just so I don't use any of the resources while I'm there, because if you use them and craft with them, you get better results with crafting than just using it. If I was to eat one of those little plants, I only get so much HP back. If I was to craft it into a bandage, I get a lot more HP back. So take very little supplies with you and just raid it out of the island and gain, and just keep building and stacking up on your supplies. I wish I would have known as a noob when I started the game off, because it would have just saved me a lot of time and a lot of resource usage if I would have known some of these. All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that video, and like and subscribe, and I hope you guys gained some kind of knowledge and some kind of strategy tips that you probably didn't think of before. All right, y'all, peace.